Okay, that is. Let's start again. Okay, we look through the process groups and the knowledge areas. And under the knowledge areas, we have about 10 knowledge areas, starting with the project integration management, the project scope management, and then the project schedule management, moving down to the project cost management. So everything about cost will be done under this knowledge area. Then the project quality management, we will move on to the project resource management. We know under the project resource, we will manage the personnel, also be able to define the number of equipment and materials required, everything about that. So there we'll carry out all our estimation and come up with um, a plan on how to bring them on and to utilize them and also to save material and resources. We'll move down to the project communication management. Project communication management is very important. You know, you have stakeholders that you're going to be dealing with. So how do you communicate with them? You know, certain times if you move on to a specific area, they may not know how to use specific devices. So you have to understand them and to know what equipment or what IT device that we can use better. Not all of them can access their emails, and it depends on who your stakeholders are. Then we will talk about the project risk. The project risk management. Where are you? And come to the 43 King the everyday supermarket. Everyday supermarket? Yes. Okay, I should come to everyday supermarket. Yeah. Let me do that. No problem. That's how my okay, so that is about that. Now, project risk management also has about 7 sub processes. You can see the very first thing about the project risk management is under the planning stage. So thoroughly so majority of it falls under the planning stage. What is the first one then? We come up with a risk management plan. How we will be carrying out risk management on the project. And then we'll sit down to identify those risks. We think through the processes. That's okay. I think under this area, we could be facing a weather challenge. I think here we face transportation challenge, maybe delay, and we'll start thinking about that. We'll move down to what is called the perform qualitative risk analysis, then the perform quantitative risk analysis, then we will now plan the risk response strategy. What do we after that? We now start deploying the actual plans. And that is in the execution stage. Down to monitoring and control. Okay, so integration management is going to help us to know when a risk will trigger planning. If risk is triggering the planning, we go back to the plan, right? And avoid the risk, change the scope, do something about it, and then move on. Then the project procurement management. We'll talk about how procurement is done on projects. What is expected of you to do to procure material and resource. And then the last one is the project stakeholder management. When we talk about project stakeholders, we look at it and we say, okay, let's identify them. We talk about the stakeholders that can influence us. Whether seriously, negative or positive. Let's go back to the project charter. Go back to you. So you project charter. What do you understand by project charter? No, I don't understand you. I was telling you that next time we understand. Okay. Okay. So, but from this diagram, from this chart, you can tell project charter is the very first thing. Yes, that is the very first thing to be done there. Okay, then the project charter is that where you have
you change and then register your identity.
No, not under the project charter. Now the
Okay,
project,
tutorial is where you have
the business
the
case,
business case, yes.
where your
Where you
feasibility
drop your
study.
physical and then you have to sign it.
Yes, exactly. So that's the project charter. So it is that document that initiates the project. The client is saying that this, what I want you to do, I'm giving you the authority to go ahead and get it done. So this is my signature. And you too would say, what you want me to do, I'm assuring you that I can do it. I'm going ahead to sign, you drop your. So but in the
contractor and the money
And the-
client.
and the client,
That's the project charter.
yes, that's the project charter.
The rules of engagement.
The rules of engagement and also preliminary knowledges of the budget, the speculated time, the required quality in a high level. But the project charter is also saying that we are not saying that this is everything about the project. We know that the budget can be changed. So take this authority, go on and start planning it. You see? Start planning it so where you would come up with tentative budget, tentative schedule, and everything about the project. That is what the project charter is saying. So it is under the project charter that your business knowledge would be deployed as a project manager, not your leadership knowledge so much, but now you're only dealing with the project owners, the clients. So it's your business knowledge that where you can inform and advise the clients wisely that this project I think would not fly. Or due to these options and these options, if you can do it like this, it may or may not fly. Or it will fly. Let's go ahead. That is, or these are the things that will be done under it. Then the next one becomes the project management plan. Remember, you have the authority now to go ahead. And so the first thing would be that you are required to start planning. Yeah, so that is
this project division management. It goes through all the phases of the process.
Yes, that is yes. 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 But this is where your experience and knowledge is tested.
That's
this across the project integration management. You're talking to maybe the plumber somewhere, and you have identified the risk with the plumber. And because you are conversant with the terrain, you now know that this will affect the messing man. And this is how far it will affect the messing man. And this is how far it will affect the project. So for me to rechange that, for me to stop that, I'm not only going to deal with the plumber. Let me go back to the drawing board and bring my team back to the drawing board for us to avoid it in our planning. If we avoid it, which means we're going to be changing a little of the messing man plan, the civil engineer's plan. And that plan is what will go down to affect the plumber. You see how it is? This is where your integration management is coming in. It's very important to know how to integrate it. Not making a decision, you're not making a decision thinking that that decision solely will deal with the plumber, but you're considering all the stakeholders and all the activities that are affected. So now let's see certain things that are required for you to come up with the project management plan. I have written certain things down for you to consider. The very first one is the project charter, which has been given to you. Remember, the preliminary thoughts are cascaded in there. You have to be conversant with what the client says he has. He has told you that I want it to be within $2 million. And $2 million is what he said he has. But actually, since you are the one coming on board, you may want to plan according to its budget. Even if it's much, let it not be more than $2 million in a way that 50% more. You may want to keep it within 10% more or 10% less, or plus or minus. So that is why you need the project charter. And then under it, you need all the players. If it is a construction project, you need your architect. And also you need your structural engineer. Who else? You need your technicians majorly at this phase. You guys are not doing the job. So it is in this phase you will carry out your own due diligence. This is the phase, in the planning phase, is where you're even hitting the market, sampling what is obtainable within that terrain. You're looking at, if it is, for instance, bridges that we want to construct. And we are not supposed to be building bridges that are old. At least we need to integrate innovative, we need to construct innovative bridges. So you may want to look at bridges that have been built within these centuries and know how it can serve now and serve the future generation and the technology needed. And so, at this phase, you, the project manager, you are researching on that. You are talking to other experts that are not part of your team just to know what is obtainable. You may or may not pay them. And then your civil engineer is telling you that I need 20 bags of cement for this construction. You're writing it down. I need so and so for this. We will need certain number of woods. So reinforcement. The architect would have told you that this is the space it will require, right? So at the end of the day, you come up with a project management plan. And now the project management plan is how, having known all these things, the plan of how am I going to get it done? How am I going to get it done? Ensuring that I save money, I save time, I save materials by getting it done. How do you do that? You look at what the plan that the architect has from your due diligence, from the information which you have gathered, from the ability of the project, the civil engineer and the construction team, if they would be able to carry out that which the architect has put in the plan. And also you're looking at the cost at the same time. It's ambiguous. This is not what the client is looking at. So you are gathering data. You're talking to people, you're gathering data, you're writing things down. The architect may not know what you are doing. The architect may not know why you want to rule off that pink house he's talking about. You have looked at the market condition and you've known that a particular moving the penthouse would save you 40% of the total building. The architect may not know that. You were the one that the client told about this or our budget. It's okay. Okay, for maintenance purposes, the architect is looking at placing the water tanks on the penthouse. So you are like, yes, doing this is okay, but for maintenance purposes, the client will be required in operation to be maintaining that place every month, which will cost the client. You want to cut that off. It's okay. Why not we construct a separate stanchion for the tanks? So you come up with the project management plan. Now, in the project management plan, you have all the works. You are carrying out your alternative analysis in this place. People are coming up with the work plan. And now remember, the work plan, has its subsidiaries. The cost management plan would have to be there. The risk management plan is in the project management plan. The schedule management plan is in it. Everything you take, all the subsidiary plan, how to deal with the stakeholders, the plan is in the project management plan. So the project chart, no.
Okay, just preliminary, just touch everything in the project chapter.
Yes, everything in the project chapter will be captured in detail. So yes, everything in the project chapter will be captured in detail. Now, how do you detail that? That is why the project management plan will not be complete until you go down. You go down. You must have a scope for it. You must come up with a scope management plan. You must have what? A schedule management plan. So all these are subsidiaries of the project management plan. That is why we place it on top as like the integration. It has to integrate certain things. These are the pockets of jobs. So when you want to carry out your project management plan, you will go, oh, where is my scope? Let's talk about the scope. You call your guys, you guys start to defining the scope. And how do you not define the scope? You define the scope by collecting requirement, like I said. So we can do this our training by going down like this. Finish up with the planning first, then we come to execution. Finish up the activities that are under execution. We come to monitoring and controlling. We look at all the sub processes under it and take them one by one, or we may come to this like that. But now, I want us to go like this from each knowledge area. But when you want to execute it, you go like this. Okay. Call your team, sit down with them, get this thing here out before you move to the step. Everything here, you identify them from step to step before you start your execution. That is about the project management plan. So now the next one is the direct and manage the project work, which is under the execution. Now you have a plan, right? You have a project management plan. You have to direct and manage the project work. Or everything defined in the project management plan must be defined. So now that's what we say the direct and manage project work is a process of performing. You have to carry out an action now. This is time to create the work that has been defined. You have to create the work. It's time to mix cement. The plan that you have, the activities you have in the project management plan, you have to ensure that you come up with objectives and you're meeting those objectives. Now, real work, this is what we're going to do. So now you are performing the activities in the direct and manage the project work. So what are you doing? You're looking at the project management plan. We said we need 10 men for the foundation. Do we have the 10 men now? Yes, you take it. We said we need 10 pounds for it. Do we have it now? Yes, we take it. And that's how you move down to it. So under this phase, what are you doing? You're managing the quality. You're acquiring resources. You're acquiring resources, right? At the same time, you are developing your team, because you may have some boys that are willing to work, but they may not have the knowledge required. Maybe community boys. Yes. So you have to look for a way to start teaching them the materials, the equipment that you have, how to use them. You're training them to come up to speed. Maybe the job requires that you integrate 10 civil engineers with 10 years experience in that area. And you can only find one that has 10 years experience, and the rest are 5 years experience guys, which means the very first one will have to ensure that he's developing the guys. So you're doing the job, yet you are mentoring them. You're doing the job. So here now you're creating the project deliverables. And that moves you to the next phase. So it is in this phase, that which you talked about would happen. We would have, if peradventure things are not going on well, what should we do? We would have to carry out corrective actions to repair that. If should in case we are moving out of the scope, we are not being able to get things done well, we have to implement corrective actions, right? Then also, we'll put in place preventive actions. Also, we'll carry out defect repairs. How to repair defect if should in case things are not going the way they should go. We would carry out defect repairs. We'll put in place preventive measures. So these are things that we must put in place. But remember, you cannot execute projects without a team. You need a team. Your team is needed. And also, like you asked me before time that, okay, what if what we are seeing on ground is from what we have in plan? That is why you have to put a measure that is called the change request measure. The change request measure is the man who has identified a better way of getting the job done, a better way of saving costs. That man will not. Yes. No. Yeah. Spend less and then achieve more. Right. So if he has identified that, He does not have the right to go ahead and do it, but they just have the right to initiate a change. Putting it down. But I discovered that instead of using 4 men, we can use 3 men if we can do this and do that. He will write it down and send it to you as a project manager. And you will look at it. You look at how much it can save you and look at the risk. We could be saving money, but at the end of the day, we could be exposed to more risk. So you look at it. If it's okay, what do? You go back to the project management plan and integrate it into the project management plan. And say, okay, from now on, this is how we will get it done. Before the man will go ahead to want to execute it, he does not have the right to execute without obtaining the permission to execute it. And for him to have the right, he must see it reflected in the project management plan. So that is the approved change request. The approved change request is what gives right to the man to go back and ask, okay, instead of using 12 mm, we are using 9 mm for the reinforcement, right? So that is what you do in the execution phase, in the direct and manage the project work. And the next thing becomes what? The monitoring, controlling of the project work. Okay. No, we are not going down. The next class we will go down.
Okay,
we will pick the project scope management.
Okay, no, you just did. Okay, you just came to this one.
I'm just touching it. This is where we are now. I just finished touching this, and now manage project knowledge. We have to talk about manage project knowledge. There's no way we will embark on a project without learning new things. If we talk about alternative analysis, we must learn new things, right? So as we are learning new things, we still have to be managing the things we are learning by archiving them, by writing them somewhere for future use. So the more we do a job, the better we'll become at it. But it's also encouraging that we record that which we have learned on the project. I bet when we come up with alternative analysis, wouldn't it be nice that we record it? That is why we say you manage the project knowledge. All what we are learning on the project, we come to want to manage it by archiving it, bringing it out. So that is the major thing, is documentation of it. You document knowledge. Like the other day, you told me about using a particular personnel and you discovered that, okay, the personnel was not adding value. Rather, he was lying, and then you decided taking him off and doing it in a certain way. That should be written down somewhere. So another day in another project, you would do what? You go back and pick up that. But there is no way you will be embarking on the project, carrying out execution without communicating to certain experts that may not be on your project. Yes, so you must get in touch with experts and apply their judgment. That is what makes you tick as a project manager. Yes, you have a civil engineer outside, but inside you have another civil engineer outside that you are talking to. You're using his knowledge to check the guy inside. This is what we want to do, Mr. James. My team and I will look at it this way. What do you think? Is it appropriate? What are the risks? Mr. James will say, oh yeah, it's okay. Let's do it this way. But I experienced certain thing in the project in so and so place. I did it that way and then I was successful. Why not you do it that way? And then you use that, you throw that before your team, your in-house civil engineer team will look at it and say, yeah, Oga, how did you know? How did you know? Well, Oga, you're not a civil engineer, but you know this much. It is because you have other experts that you're talking with. You must learn how to keep a repository of experts. Maybe you invite them for a dinner and you just seek their opinion. And maybe you tip them also. And when you tip them like that, everybody wants to be seen as experts. They will play out. And, as you're talking to them, as you're carrying out the project, your leadership skill must be there. Remember, like what we talked about, we said you have to manage their emotions too. All right? In a place where they are not willing to work, you have to motivate them by giving them certain incentives and know how to communicate with them, how to carry out information. You have to pick certain information management tools, how your team will be able to send you knowledges about what they have done, and how you to be able to report to the clients, how to tell the client what you have done. That's the status report. All right. So all these should be known by you. And then you have all this done under the execution and in the place of managing your project knowledge. It is very important. What have I known? What can we do better? And when you know what you can do better, you go down to write it. You append it somewhere, you document it. And at the end of the day, the project management plan will be updated. You have a better project management plan, right? Because you are in the field, you discover that so what you had in the plan was not visible. Now you now know how to get it done. You have to update it. So the project management plan,
the new reality.
The new reality. So you go back to what? Update the project management plan. So the project management plan becomes updated. And that is what you are working with.
What you update, you don't document that is signed
already.
But
you go to the project stakeholder in a place where you would need more money, in a place where you find out that you will need more time to have a better quality and to save them more money. You have to go back to them and tell them. And if they say no, what would you do? You do it the way they want it, right? And the way it can serve them best. Yeah, that is that.
okay.
So the next one becomes monitoring and control project work.
You know, for me,
Yes.
this planning.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, planning.
Yeah. Yes, planning has a huge percentage in it.
Very important. But
yeah.
If you don't plan well, this one will fail.
It will.
This one will fail.
Everything there, because you'll only be executing rubbish. You think you're doing well. You could be successful in doing that. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Come back. Okay. This is monitor and control project work. Yes, it's under monitoring and controlling, but it is when the job is being carried out that we monitor and control the project work. So in this phase, what do you need? There's a tool that is required of you. There's something you need first to be able to monitor and control the project work, the project that is still under execution. That is the project management plan. Always as a project manager, that becomes your Bible. You keep it right on top of your desk. You're looking at it, ensuring they are doing things according to what is being written down there. So that's what you're doing. So you need the project management plan, first of all. And then you're making documents of what is right and what is wrong. That is to say, you're following the activities bomber to bomber. You're recording successes, you're recording failure. If you are failing, what would you be doing? You're thinking of how to retract the project to be on budget, to be within scope, to be within schedule, to be within quality. So certain things may just somersault in, and then they may want to push you out of the scope. You bring them back. So you're documenting places where you're saving time. You may have saved 3 hours, I've saved 3 days. We are 3 days ahead of the schedule given to the contractor. So we're doing well. Oh no, we are behind. What should we do now that we are behind? So this is what you're doing in this phase. You're monitoring and controlling it. You're looking at the agreement. And then it is the work performance information. You may not be there. Your personnel will be telling you that, Oga, we have placed 24 blocks. And you look at the time. The 24 telling you that they have been able to lay 24 blocks means that they are passing the work performance information to you. And the work performance information will be gotten from the work performance data. And from the work performance, the work performance information that you will embed in your project management status or your project status to be able to tell the client, we are well, we are good, we are doing well, we are in. Yes, That when you say we are behind our schedule with 3 days, that is progress report that you are passing on. We have done 50% of it. That is status reports. Where we are is status reports. After we have gone, or after we are behind, it's about the progress reports. All right? So status report is where we are, the milestone we are, where we are. You're not saying we are doing well or we are not doing well. So you use this information to, and remember, as the expert, as a project manager, you have to be analyzing the data. Be analyzing the data. The data is the condition of things, how far we have gone, things which we have done, the time we are taking, the quality, the quantity, all these things are your data. These are the data that you put together to cook up an information. Information will be like a report, and these reports are what you're going to pass on to your team, telling them the civil engineer may not be aware in the whole project that you people are behind. He may not be aware, but you're supposed to gather them in a team. As a project manager, when you put them in one house, the way we are, it's called the war room. You bring them in a war room like this, and then you guys start talking about it in your progress meetings. You're telling them that I don't like what you did. You took time, you went for break and you took 2 hours. And now you see, when you left, the guys were doing rubbish. So we are going back now to overhaul, to break off that which they did because you were not there. All right? Materials. Beautiful. So for that single 1 hour you took in that critical activity, you have cost us $50,000. The man will be sure. Oh God. You gotta say it cost us $50,000. You now take the book and start showing you. Because we are going back to do this. We are buying 50 bags of cement. So and so length of rivers. We have to pay for the batching plant for additional 1 day. See it? Because of this, because of that, and the guy will now understand the importance of time. And then you will now make your decision. Your decision may be that we are not reworking it. Your decision may be that we are reworking it, not even only that part. As you are working, I'm changing the civil engineer. You're making that decision. And besides, for you to rework it, or you're coming up with an alternative, there will be a change request, right? If there's a change request, there must be an approval of the change request. And I told you about defect repair. You must come up with a plan how to repair that which is bad. Okay.
On the spot. Okay. It doesn't give you a timeline of 10 minutes.
Yes.
You have to do it on the spot.
So how do you do it?
Otherwise, you lose money.
Okay. So how do you do it?
How do you do it?
Okay, beautiful. Because that's how we succeed on projects. Everything must not be placed on stone. It's not concrete reality. So there's what we call the mandatory activities. And there's what we call the discretional activity. There are certain changes when we move into the integration change control phase. There are certain changes like this that you, the project manager, has that you can make by yourself without consulting the project owner. You have defined that. You know that you have them in place. There are certain changes you have told your civil engineer that he can make because of the budget required. If it is maybe $5 change, $500 changes, and maybe 2 hours, you have it there written that he can make it. No spotlight changes. You must define that when you have a plan. He knows that your plan that when you get to the field in a place where you discover that something is leaking and you want to, I'm just giving you an instance. You don't have to call me. Use your discretion, but write it down. That this is what we did. Write it down. Then I will look at it. But for major changes like this that would affect the budget, 10%, 30%, 20%, don't, even if it's beautiful, don't execute it. Stop.
cost of the project beyond that 10%.
If it affect that the cost of the project beyond, that is why you're telling him to hold on. You're telling him to hold on. There are room for emergency. That's why we have the risk management plan. We have to identify all those things in the risk, things that can go wrong. And always remember that when you go to the field and start experiencing so much, it is your failure in the planning phase. You did not see so well. Yes. So don't say that, yes, we know that we will get to the field and start seeing certain things. We know field experience is different. When field experience becomes so different, tangibly different, the project manager did not plan so well. If the project manager is experienced enough, he can be in his office and he will see through. The things that may likely go wrong, he will see them. You understand? You will see 90% of it. And that 10% is negligible, that the executors, the field guys can do by them. You are on top of your game. You see? So you exhaustively plan. Don't leave any experience on the field. Try to see. Try to think. Try exhaustively plan. Yes, if you go through this plan, these processes we are talking about, you will see that anything they could have seen, you have seen it. That is why we are deploying these processes for us to go through them step by step. Yeah, that is that. So on this phase, remember, always you have work performance reports, like I said. The work performance data, you analyze it and come up with work performance information. The work performance information we place in a report, right? That report may be high level, maybe in detail. Detail is for you and your team. High level is for the stakeholders because they may not know all those technical terms. So that is that about what we're going to do in that phase. Now let's move on to the integration change control. Change management system is very important. We have talked so much about the change management system, but you should know that change is an activity of its kind. Change is a process. And what is the very first process? If you identify something, report it. Tell us how it will save us money, save us time, save us quality, and have a better result. You have it written down. And also, if the client wants you to change, the client should put it in writing. And all of you will analyze how much it will cost. And when you come up with how much it will cost, the client should sign that they will credit your account or they must credit your account. Client cannot just come and tell you change this place and put this place. No, how would client say that? It's money from whose pocket? If the client is saying that, the client should put it in writing that is the one that is mandating you to do that. Because that may be in the violation of the architect's knowledge. It could be in the violation of the structural engineer's knowledge. So tomorrow, if the building would collapse, you have transferred the responsibility over to the client. That is why you have to integrate change control process. The client should be aware of your change management processes. Make it clear. And also let your guys know that they can't just wake up and start changing things.
They can't
just wake up, start changing things on the field. The change management, it must go through the change management system, the change control process. It must go through that process. And the process is when you identify, you write it down and tell us what you want to save and what you want to avoid.
We capture about
32 windows,
which is major.
That is major, serious.
And I said,
project architect.
the whole flow. And we went ahead by
yes,
thinking
we are saving money. avoiding inflation,
Even beyond
that
that,
phase.
they have brought us back. We just do this all.
Did you now you can
That's what we need.
annex the
That's what we
project manager? So now
need.
you would document this knowledge. How do you avoid it? A third party architect probing what the man is not aware that you are doing that behind him. Because this money it's not going to come out of the pocket of the clients. You believe that
Yes.
it's coming out
Yes.
from you.
Yes.
It's coming out, and you could have paid this architect. You could have paid it. You could have paid him. But in a huge project, if this mistake is coming from the architectural company, it's their baby. They will have to come and fix it and pay the damage. True or false? But now it is you that signed these damages with your client. So you are paying it. That's why you need your project management knowledge and what you have to do when an architect is coming up with a design. The architect has given you a wonderful design, but you do not have the knowledge. All you need to do, remember expert judgment. Another expert you will use in probing what another expert has done. Now, check the windows. You have to go and write it down. When they design, check the doors, check the windows, check the conduit, check, probe everything. Now, what to probe? You have to come up with a checklist on how to probe an architectural plan. And you have it documented somewhere in your knowledge repository. Your architect may not be aware that you have such a document somewhere. Yeah, once it's done, you bring it out. It's not there. You have looked at it. What if the windows are not completely installed? What if the doors are? What if analysis in the planning phase, you are probing it? And that part of it that you're doing in the planning is affecting your risk identification, right? That's what you're doing there. So there's no way you will go through this process and not capture that 32 windows that's missing in the planning. And even will go back and front, the plan, back and front. The civil engineer too is looking at the plan, is looking at the constructability of the architectural plan in the planning phase. So the perform integration change control is a process of reviewing all changes requests, approving change, and managing changes to the deliverables. Organizational process assets, and you're looking at all this, looking at the configurations, and then you're integrating continuous improvement into it, change management plan, you're integrating the defect repair, corrective actions, what to do, how to correct actions, and you're analyzing data. Automatically, you'll be making decisions on what to do, and you'll also be updating your project management plan. If a change is initiated and is accepted, you update your change management plan. And I told us something the other day. I said, when a change is requested and rejected, still write it down. That he said we should put 3 windows. And we looked at it and said, no, it's not economically viable. We rejected it, write it down in a rejected change request register. Because some of them are trickish. They will still kick it in. And okay, I tell you before now, I use the money to buy it. I told you before now. When you tell me waiting, I talk. You see, you say you don't, because you have so much pattern in hand, rather you have forgotten what you told them. But if you have a register, anything they tell you, bring out your small paper, your jotter, write it down. You have a document somewhere for it. Go and cascade it there. Go and cascade it there, and you teach them not to do anything without your notice. You mustn't be there. That's why Burj Al Arab or Burj Khalifa was built by a nurse, like I told you. A nurse, practicing nurse, was brought out because she became the PMP, and they looked at it when they asked the project managers who can build it and do it very well. She said she could, and they interviewed her, and she was the best, and she built it, the best, the tallest building at that time in the world. Why? Because of this, having understanding of these processes and the sub-processes. The civil engineer does not know what you are talking about. If the architect knew, he could have seen, that was his baby. He could have seen 32 windows missing, but he did not see it. But tomorrow now, when we are talking about civil engineering and talking about architectural design, the architecture will be hitting, the architect will be hitting the table and saying, I have 20 years experience. Who are you to tell me what I don't know? But you see how when we rely so much on the man's knowledge, we are failing as project managers. When we rely so much on the footballer's skills, we may be put in relegation. We may lose. So we mustn't do that. We must avoid relying solely on what they know. Okay, it's okay. So
You didn't send me a live recording.
I did.
No, send me only the first recording.
No, I did. Just to be checked the message, I will resend it. Okay. So close project office is the process of finalizing all activities in the projects, looking at all the project management processes which you have passed through and the inherent activities. You're ensuring that let me recap, close project office is the process of finalizing all the processes of the project, all the phases, all the activities individually, and then moving formally to want to complete the project. The completion of the project is not that you're completing each activity, no, but you're closing the activities, like where you have to sign off, you sign off, where you have to accept, where you have to make amends in certain areas, you do it and ensure that contractually every activity or phases are being closed. So how can you now get that done? You need certain things to ensure that the project which you are closing is in line with what you are contracted to execute. Yes. Yes. Milestone. Okay, but for construction project, no, phases sometimes are not about time. And sorry, milestones are not about time. Phases could be by time, could be by activities. Milestone may be like foundationing, like say. Because of payment, set target for payments and certain difficulties within the project area. Not only for payments, like yes. Yeah, you placed it there because of management purposes, but maybe looking at how various activities are similar and within the boundary. You want to say, okay, for this milestone, since we're going to be using resources that are similar, so let's focus in here and ensuring that we get this done before we move on to certain other areas. So we don't tie milestones to time. It's about activities. Yeah, you can call out time out of it. You can call time rather out of it, but it's not specifically about time. It's about work, right? Okay. So that is that. So you need to go back to your project charter. Looking at, because somebody's coming to look at what you have done to either accept it or reject it. So you go back to your project charter. And from your project charter, you move on to your project management plan. Then after the project management plan, you look at all your documentations. Because when you look at your project management plan and you look at what you have done, you may see changes, right? So you want to be sure that the change integration, the change control management plan was incorporated into it. For all these changes that I'm seeing in my project, were they accepted by the owner? Were they accepted by the client? Did we follow through the right processes to incorporate them? So having done that, you look at the documentation, then you may want to look at the deliverables that the client is coming to accept as against the project management plan. But you as a project manager, you have to ensure that you're analyzing all the data that are in there, because that's where your expertise lies. And you call back the agreement, looking at the terms and conditions stipulated in the contract. You still have to look at it to know the conditions stated by the client where which the project will be accepted. Then you go ahead to make documentations of all the phases and the sub-processes. If you're closing a project, bring back your team put them in a meeting, talk to them, go through the processes to see if all what was required are being carried out. Then at the end of the day, what would happen? You have a final report that the team is called, sorry, the client is coming to sign off, right? You have a final report. So that is about the finished project. So like the catch-up word is like, go back to the phases and close them individually. In the phases, if there are activities, you close those activities, closing those activities and closing off with the contractors, those no, at the closing phase is not progress report. It's project report. It's closing report you're coming up with that has all.
No, I'm talking about the phases.
Yes, the phases. The phases in execution when that's when you have progress report. But in closing of the phases, you need the status report to be sure that you have closed it completely. Percent complete. You're looking at the percent complete. It has to be 100% complete. So you look at that, you close it, you sign up. If you have contractors within, maybe the phases could be about installation of doors, installation of lighting fixtures, go in there and ensure that you have them closed individually. You don't want to have an open contract somewhere when you're going to close out the project with the client. You don't want to do that. So ensure that you move from cradle to cradle, phases to phases, and you're closing the like the contract you have with this procurement contract you have with this man. If there's a place where you have to pay him or whatever that is required somewhere, you have it written down. Okay, ensure that whatever you have with him, you are closing it out, that it cannot be transferred to the client when you hand the contract over, sorry, the project over to the client. You want to ensure that you close everything in the project. So I said, for this reason, we have two kinds of closure. We have closed procurement and we have closed projects. The closed procurement is the closing of the individual contracts. While the closed project, when you have closed all the individual contracts and you are waiting for the client to come in and sign off on the project, to accept the project, that becomes closed project. That's the end of the project. Yes, and that's told us the other time that how do you close project? You close project by going to see your lessons learned. All what I have learned on this project, you archive it in your repository for future use. Like what this man is teaching us about how the styles are cut, the sizes and everything. Yes, so that's a unique knowledge. Because if we don't have this, we can be cheated. And if we're going to be dealing on cutting tiles, maybe in the future, it's good we consult another person, feeling we know it all and approaching them as if we want to buy, and talking to them how we're going to cut it. And if what they are coming up with is different from what this man is coming, now we now know that it's either they want to cheat us or this man has cheated us. Then we move on to the next store. If what the next store is saying is what this man is saying, or the other man is saying, we know that this man has cheated us. That's how we carry out our due diligence. Then we go back to our repository to document the knowledge of buying tiles and buying it right. Archive it. That documentation is archiving it for future purpose. For future purpose, we're not going to be talking to this man, allowing him to teach us when we want to learn. Allowing him to teach us, allowing him to teach us when we want to buy. We can't do that. It's expensive. He cannot teach us when we have sent him money. No, we must know before we send him money. So now we will be instructing him, we're telling him, because how do we not sense the risk if he is to teach us, at the same time sell us? We are not. Okay, but it's still okay, since it's on the job training that we are doing. But we have to ensure that we have the knowledge. We may not put it in our head, but we have to write it somewhere, project knowledge. You create a folder, project knowledge. Now you have to go to and create a document of tiles and measurements, different tiles and measurements. And then you will not call him on the phone to explain the gray areas for you. And you write it. Because tomorrow he may likely want to go this way, you bring him back. And that's how you will deal with your architect too. So the architect tomorrow will know that I'm going to forget something to be careful for other things that you might forget. Okay. So this actually brings us to the end of today's training. So we have dealt on project integration management. So project integration management is just a binding code of other processes and knowledge areas. So we would have to go in step by step. So the next class will be on project scope management. That is the very first thing you do on your project now, scope, defining scope. So the next time we'll look at it and we'll know how to define our scope, going into the job process and see the activities, how we can come up with activities and identify the various activities required. Like procurement should be an activity somewhere, right? So we look at that. So
That's 4 or 5 p.m.